Hi, all. Kinsey Schofield here with Matt Wilkinson, the royal editor at The Sun. Matt, the last time I spoke to you, Harry and Meghan had just visited Nigeria, and I asked you why the Nigerian government pursued that. Same question for Colombia. Why would Colombia invite Harry and Meghan for a visit? What's in it for them?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is something we've been debating for the last couple of weeks. It's kind of been unclear as to why, quite frankly. I mean, I think we kind of can get worried that Harry and Meghan are literally just kind of members of the royal family for hire. That any government around the country can issue an invite and they accept. Harry and Meghan have arrived, so they're in Colombia, and after they arrived, we did get a little bit of an insight actually from the vice president. It's a kind of a troubling quote. She said that she became aware of Meghan's story after the Netflix show, which surprised me a little bit that she didn't seem to know much of the background. But she's basing her invite on what happens, in the Netflix show, which, as we know, was riddled with inconsistencies. It was had mistakes, it had errors, it had only one point of view, and it was very critical of the royal family. Painted a very sympathetic picture of Meghan and Harry, obviously, but very critical of the royal family and of the UK at large. But she also mentioned, this is the vice president who invited them. She's also mentioned that last summer they held a special day in Colombia. I think it was a Black Heritage Day, and they thought, well, wouldn't it be wonderful if Meghan could be here? And that's where the invite came from last summer, as long ago as I think it was last July. And this is where it's come from. It is purely the vice president. Harry and Meghan aren't meeting the current president. My understanding is that there's not going to be a face-to-face meeting. So it's all on the strength of this woman's personality. I spoke to people connected to Colombia, and I said, "What do you think about this visit?" And they are worried, obviously, about the money. The left-wing government who's invited them is not overly popular, but this seems like a way of the vice president to boost her fame. I mean, she would have been pictured with Meghan, greeting Meghan, in Bogota, and her face and her name's going to be painted all over the world. So maybe that's the reason why the vice president of Colombia has invited two of the most famous people in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what you just described is Meghan getting her way twice. The Netflix documentary worked in their favor. I think we all knew that the ultimate objective with the Netflix documentary wasn't necessarily the big paycheck they got to take home, but it was so that they could get their side of the story out beyond Oprah Winfrey and beyond Spare, which was really Prince Harry's point of view. But also Meghan having a foot in politics. The fact that the vice president is so enthralled with her and wants to elevate her and wants to be seen with her, knowing that Meghan has, dipped her toe politically in the States, calling senators, talking to them about extended time away for moms, trying to sway them one way or another, or doing these digital campaigns during the 2020 election, trying to get more women out to vote. So Meghan is probably in her element today and for the next few days. Do you believe that that's true?
Yeah, I do partly. I think this is going to be the Meghan show. I mean, I think it's all about Meghan. I mean, I saw Harry and Meghan in Invictus Games in Germany just almost a year ago, and it was all about the arrival of Meghan. When Harry was there, he was doing, he was having good fun with his friends, but it was quite low key. It was all set up for Meghan's arrival. We were told what she was wearing. There was more specific setups for press photographs and events for Meghan. And that's what I think this is. I think that previously, when they were working royals, when they went to Australia and South Africa, for instance, there was a good reception for them. I mean, Meghan went down very well actually in South Africa, to give her credit. I think when she made that powerful speech in Cape Town, I think it was Johannesburg or Cape Town. It slipped my mind. But she was very impressive, and I think they liked that adulation. Harry's had it all his life, but Meghan liked that adulation. She liked the support. She liked meeting Archbishop Desmond Tutu in South Africa. She liked meeting these world leaders, and I think that this is all about her, all about her profile. She wants to be seen as a worldwide figure meeting politicians, and we've already seen one picture of her meeting the vice president. It's a pooled picture of the pair of them giving each other the hug. That's what she wants. It's almost like Before she became a working royal as well, she went to places like Rwanda. I think she went to like a UN conference, and she likes that. That adulation, that support, being there with you pictured with politicians and world leaders is wonderful for her profile. So I think we'll see more of that over these 4 days of Meghan being front and center, and I think it's what she wants.
Right. And I also remember before Prince Harry that the picture of her at the White House, she had a friend connected to President Obama. So, yeah, absolutely, you're right. We spoke about this last time, too, but I'm going to poke you about it again. The late Queen Elizabeth said, no half in, no half out. It still looks to me as if that is what Harry and Meghan are trying to project to the world, despite that message from the palace, pursuing the perks on their terms without the hard work and strategy that goes into being a senior member of the royal family. Why is it so important to the Sussexes to visit Nigeria, Colombia, when back home they're trying to sell us yoga mats and kitchen content on Netflix? Doesn't it feel like those two paths are extremely different?
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated. It's complicated to answer that. I mean, I think firstly, look, they're not representing the UK. They're not working royals. They can just go wherever they want. But everyone has to remember they're just a pair of celebrities at the moment. This isn't an official royal tour. I think that's difficult. Not criticizing Colombia and Nigeria, but it's obviously difficult for them to realise that they're not representing the UK. They're not out there for anything specific based, members of the royal family. But what they are doing is they're representing Archewell. And the confusing thing is here, we don't really know what Archewell or Harry and Meghan stand for. So that they have certain causes. They launched the Parents Network last week about, very good cause about cyberbullying, but we don't really. It feels a bit vague. I don't really, the engagements they're doing. Why? I've been on many tours, official royal tours, and you see what they're doing at these foreign office events, the defence events. There's something that a couple of weeks later might help a diplomatic incident or a diplomatic situation with another country. It links countries and governments up. Why are they in Colombia? They're just there to represent themselves and Archewell, and we don't quite know what they stand for yet. And I think there'll be an Invictus. There'll be an Invictus event because Colombia are in the Invictus Games, and there will be something to do with women's empowerment, which is something that Meghan's obviously spoken about in the past. But I'm not going to say shallow. I'm going to say vague. I don't understand the topics. I don't understand the reason they're going there. Whereas when the King and Queen or the Prince and Princess of Wales go abroad, you know why they're in a country, you know what the reason is. But ultimately, this just comes back to they're just representing themselves and Archewell in a vague way.
You're right to say not shallow, but at the same time, when they describe it as the pair set to experience the rich heritage of Colombia, yes, that's vague. But how is it not shallow? How is it not just an influencer trip where we see someone with a lot of followers on TikTok get a free hotel room and stay as long as they tag the Colombia Tourism Bureau? I mean, that is sometimes, I think what the great point you just made is the messaging. And I feel like Harry and Meghan are in some ways such control freaks that they don't want to give us access to what's going on until the very last minute. And in some cases, they literally don't know. They don't have they're just not good at clear messaging. But it does feel like this is just an influencer trip, which I think that's my issue with Meghan. Are you going to be this thought leader, or are you going to be an influencer and sell us American Riviera Orchard? I don't really feel like I can give you an example of somebody, maybe Oprah, but not really, that is trying to be in both lanes. Like they're going to make the world a better place, but they also want us to buy their moisturizer.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly.
Does that exist?
I 100% agree. It's like, when I was saying it's vague, we don't know what the topics are, and all we know about them the last couple of months since they've stopped writing books and doing documentaries about the royal family is that Meghan is selling jam, and this isn't a trip to Colombia to sell jam. We just don't know why they are there. I mean, I'm at a loss sometimes. I've looked a bit at the itinerary, and it has the echoes of a royal tour, but it just seems a little bit too simple.
All right, I'm going to go in a little bit more, and if you're over it, just be like, yeah, let's move on. But the vice president specifically said that the couple will visit local schools to encourage young people to improve their digital literacy and promote a greater awareness of mental health. 3 years ago, Prince Harry told Oprah that he didn't know how to deal with Meghan's mental health. Why are we trusting them to mentor children on this topic?
Well, Harry has in the past been involved in many mental health charities. But he has done work when he was to give him credit, when he was a working member of the royal family in that kind of sphere. But we can ask that question of any celebrities, quite frankly. What makes a celebrity, some kind of professional in some kind of difficult sphere? Um, it is a tricky one. I mean, I struggle with this whole idea that they're going to fight cyber bullying and issues of abuse online when they have got a vile Sussex squad that follow them. I know they're, allegedly not, I know that they aren't, connected or supportive in any way, but the followers of Meghan and Harry are pretty cruel, okay? And
Yeah.
they've never really addressed that. They've attacked the Princess of Wales, really badly over the last 6 months. And I find it difficult for Harry and Meghan to come out in this kind of sphere. He's saying go to schools and speak about cyberbullying and about mental health when a lot of their supporters are pretty nasty online. And if you remember, about 3 or 4 years ago, I wrote a story that they had actually contacted one of these members of the Sussex squad to thank them for raising money for a big fundraiser. And it turned out this woman had sent some awful stuff about the Princess of Wales, and sent some terrible stuff online. So there could be some pitfalls there for you, and I think you are right to pick that up. I don't think I'm qualified to answer why they are visiting schools to speak about these issues, but I hope I've tried to tiptoe around it.
You have. No, you did a great job. On your latest Sun program, Royal Exclusive, the headline is "What's Next, North Korea," which is hilarious, but could it get that bad? I mean, could it? Right now, the way things are looking, I don't know. Where are we going to China next? Because we got to go see where the American Riviera orchard mats are made.
Well, I mean, the say Nigeria, Colombia. Is it a case that anybody who invites them they accept? We
Yeah.
don't know who else has invited them, but anyone. As I say, they're two celebrities or two members of the non-working royals who can just be invited to add a little bit of stardust to a politician or a country anywhere in the world, and it appears that they will accept these trips. So it's tongue in cheek with North Korea,
I
invite them. Of course, North Korea wouldn't invite them, but it's a thorny issue. Anyone can just ask them. I mean, the invites that come to the King and Queen and Kate and William, are carefully sifted through, and the government, the British government decides them. The British government isn't deciding where, or the American government isn't deciding where Harry and Meghan go in. They are deciding, or Archwell are deciding, and they I worry about the future. I've said this to you last time we were on. I worry about diplomatic incidents that they can find themselves in. And I don't want to sit there criticising Colombia because I think that's just really quite clumsy because it's not a European or North American country or whatever like that. But a lot of the current politicians have been that they are meeting have been faced certain accusations. Vice President herself, the President himself, and so a lot of these people that they are hanging out with in Colombia have got certain kind of scandals hanging over their head in Colombia, and I do worry going forward what kind of individuals they will end up being asked to kind of hang around with, and it worries me because it'd be very embarrassing for them and very embarrassing for Britain if they have some kind of major diplomatic incident that would be unlikely to happen if they were working royals.
Yeah, the last thing that the royal family wanted when there was this exit was the idea of pay for play royals, and sometimes it kind of looks like they're veering into that territory. You've covered a lot of Sussex tour incidents on Royal Exclusive, including firsthand accounts of Harry and Meghan's bad behavior on the road. Can you walk me through this one incident you covered? What really happened with Meghan Markle at the Fiji market stop during her royal tour with Prince Harry in 2018? A friend covering the tour said that she saw firsthand a confrontation, then an aide crying in her car, and you kind of broke this story wide open all over again a few months ago with one of your guests, talking about how there weren't security concerns. So we're already seeing security concerns being used again and are at the beginning of 2018, which sets the tone over here for 2024. Can you recall what that story was?
Yeah, I mean, the Fiji market is infamous amongst raw reporters. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. It was shortly before my time, but people who were there described many different stories. I think that the situation that came out, or the line that came out from the Sussexes at the time, was that there was a security issue and they had to get her out, and that the security guard, there's a picture of Meghan's close protection officer taking her out of the market. There are other claims from reporters who were there that said that she was unhappy with I think it was a certain United Nations arm of United Nations, or a charity connected to United Nations, that she had fallen out with, that was at this Fiji market, that she didn't want to see. Now, look, these trips are stressful. All right, they're hard working. I think they were there for 2 weeks in Australia. That's how I wasn't there, but I've been on one. I've been on trips that last this long, and they are really tough. Okay, but they're really difficult. So I understand that people, members of the royal family, have a lot of stress. But the security officer that worked for Meghan, she left shortly after that. Some of the team around Meghan and Harry were giving different stories about what actually happened. Reporters on the ground do say that, yeah, she stormed out. But you can compare it to William and Catherine. I was in the Caribbean, William and Catherine, 2 or 3 years ago, and they got a lot of abuse there from everyone online and from
Yeah.
people in the Caribbean. I was there at the final event. We had flown to 2 or 3 other islands away from Bahamas. Everyone was exhausted. There was a ton of press there because of all the problems that had happened with the tour. And William and Catherine had cameras shoved in their face. It was really, really busy. And their poise and their professionalism and the way that they went about that final engagement, I was so impressed. And I tell people whenever they ask, that I just wanted to go home. Everyone was exhausted, but they carried on. They are difficult to do, these tours, and I think with that incident in the Fiji market, from what I understand from reporters who were there, they suggest that Meghan just had enough and wanted to walk out when it was less about security.
It's interesting, though, that we are still hearing the term security issue, and the Sun is reporting that Prince Harry is expected to miss his uncle's funeral because of security issues. Now, this is Lord Fellows. He was 82 years old when he passed away last month, married to Prince Harry's aunt, Diana, Princess of Wales' sister, Jane Fellows. He also worked as the press secretary to the late Queen Elizabeth for 13 years. There is a private funeral expected to take place. Now, the headline is that Prince Harry won't be there, but will Prince William and Catherine even be there? I'm hearing a lot about just disappearing for the summer to heal, to be with family. Do we expect to see the Prince and Princess of Wales at this funeral?
We hope so, because we think it's going to be in Norfolk, which is where they're currently staying. So they're up at Anma Hall at the moment. We saw that video from the Olympics just the other day of William with his beard. Obviously, that was done up in Norfolk. They'll be going to Balmoral possibly at the end of August. So we're waiting for a date on the funeral. I would expect William to go there. Would Catherine go there? Maybe not. But if they're in Norfolk and Anma Hall, then I would definitely assume that William's going. But we haven't had confirmation. You're right, Harry's not going. And I think that's a surprise. It's not just the security issue. The thing that surprises me about this is that when Harry held his 10-year anniversary of the Invictus Games at St Paul's Cathedral, obviously the King didn't want to see him that week. His brother didn't want to see him that week. But who did go with him to St Paul's Cathedral in London for the Invictus ceremony was Lady Jane Fellows, the Robin Fellows' wife, and also Earl Spencer. So they came out in a massive show of support for Harry at a time when he felt that he'd been abandoned by the members of the royal family. Turned up at St Paul's Cathedral, sat with him. We all got pictures of them all together and dissected the fact that the Spencers and the Fellows were supporting Harry. And then at a time where he could maybe pay it back by coming to the funeral, he's not coming, and saying just a couple of weeks ago that he doesn't feel safe to come back to the UK. And I think that's a missed opportunity for Harry. I think he probably owed it to them to come to the funeral, seeing as the support that they gave him just a couple of months ago.
I agree. I completely agree. And doesn't the argument that he doesn't feel safe, doesn't it carry less weight when he travels to a place like Colombia? I know you're hesitant to criticize it, but just just a vanilla explanation would be that both the U.S. and the U.K. say that they're asking their residents to hesitate to travel there because of kidnapping and drug cartels. So does it hurt Harry's argument that he doesn't feel safe in the UK, especially when he would be surrounded by members of the royal family that would give him that extra layer of protection? And that's why he wouldn't be going to this funeral.
Yeah, possibly. He has to give like 28 days notice as well,
And
which may be one of the issues if he wants to get the protection. But I'm sure there's ways of doing it. I mean, with the security issue, as I say, in Colombia, I've been to Colombia, backpacked around Colombia. I didn't feel unsafe, but I'm
I mean,
not
but look at you.
a high level
Look at your
target.
huge muscles, Matt. Look at those huge muscles.
No, 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 no. But that's from carrying the backpack. But no, but if you were a high level target like Prince Harry, you would need certain help, and I'm sure Colombia are giving him absolutely everything. I just don't want to go down this kind of avenue of just because it is, it has had a violent past, and it has got issues where they're told, places in Colombia where you're told not to visit as a tourist. So I don't want to, criticise the country itself because there's some wonderful people in Colombia, and I'm sure the security services would do everything they can to protect Harry. But in the UK, what I don't understand is I think it's insulting to the royal household and to the police forces in the UK to say that he doesn't feel safe here, because no one would ever let anything bad happen to Harry, Meghan, and their two children if they come to the UK. Okay, and I spoke to people who have worked around in the kind of royal security, and they do find it a little bit of an insult to them that he would not be safe in the UK. I think it's an aggravating factor in his fight for protection, that he doesn't feel he gets adequate protection when everybody here would do absolutely everything to make sure he was safe.
Do you, and I know that my audience is going to be like, we've heard this argument before from me, but do you feel like it's just Harry upset that he's not getting what his brother is getting, that he's not receiving the same respect or attention that his brother is getting? And I never had these kind of questions until I saw the book title. And then all of a sudden I realized that maybe some of these arguments were true, that there's a lot of envy there.
Oh, there's 100% envy. I don't know if it translates to the security issue, but no, the 100%. Yeah, he's entitled to spare. All the complaints about his brother had a bigger room. I think we spoke to a royal chef a couple of months ago who said that Harry used to complain that William got more sausages than him.
I totally remember this story. It was like,
it's that
that
kind
was
of
a
level
great
of
headline.
yeah. I'm not entirely sure how that translates sadly to his security. But
I think it's
yeah,
just wanting to be treated like evenly, and I don't think that was an argument that had occurred to Prince Harry until, well, especially if you read Robert Jobson's book. It sounds like Meghan Markle showed up and then started pointing out, why does he get this and you don't get this? And I wonder if Harry looks at the security issue as something similar. Why does Prince William get something that is not given to me? And the reality is that was just something that he was told would be a consequence of his actions if he exited the royal family, that there would be a shift there as a senior working member, and they've held on to that I don't want to use the word threat, but it sounds like that was one of the things he was told he might lose if he stepped down.
don't forget. I mean, I disagree with you on this. I don't think that's a factor in Harry's case. Maybe it is, but
Okay.
I just don't think it is. But don't forget that he does get armed protection in the UK. He just doesn't get it automatically. So he has to apply
Yeah,
28 days before and say,
exactly.
"I'm coming over for this." I remember the Queen sent a car with some armed police to pick him up. I think it was probably before the Platinum Jubilee. If the police here in the royal household deem that he needs armed round-the-clock protection, they will give it to him. It's not denied to him, consistently. He's not told, "No, I'm sorry, you're on your own. You've got to get the Piccadilly line from Heathrow into town and
Yeah.
get up against stuff like that." that's not it. He gets the protection if they say that he needs it. So it's
No,
something
you're
that
totally right, and that's something that I always have to remember. It's not that he doesn't have it; it's just that he has to request it, and I think that also falls under that category of them being such control freaks that they don't want to give everybody their itinerary. They don't want to give everybody their plans because they're afraid somebody will leak the information or it'll end up in a newspaper. And this is just a way that they can control things. Before we move on to William and Catherine, Lord Fellows, how will he be remembered? Because as somebody that grew up in the Diana and Charles era, that's what perked my interest in the British royal family. Between Princess Diana, his sister-in-law, and his cousin Sarah Ferguson, Lord Fellows, he was painted as a stiff suit that didn't give them much room to breathe. And I really haven't thought about him otherwise between Diana's kind of interviews and stories about him and Fergie's interviews about him, where, they paint him as kind of the bad guy that would have to sit them down and wag his finger at them because, Diana infamously lied to him about working with Andrew Morton on that book. I can't imagine how much it crushed him being in the position of also being her brother-in-law and the Queen's press secretary, to be lied to by your sister-in-law and go back and repeat that to the Queen. But since he's passed away, those stories have kind of disappeared. I haven't seen any of them reemerge. Here I am being the bearer of bad news. How do you think he's going to be remembered? Like just this intensely loyal person to Queen Elizabeth?
I think so. I mean, these jobs that the people like Lord Fellows have are incredibly difficult because they've got to go and tell members of the royal family bad news, or they've done something wrong, or that they can't do this. And that there is a whole list of private secretaries that have come and gone, or been blamed for certain things. So I think overall, the royal family do look after their staff after they've left, and they do think fondly of them. But he was there at a very tumultuous time. So yeah, you're right. Some of the stories that happened when on his watch may well come back into the news. But as I say, I think he will be fondly remembered for being there at a really, really difficult time. And I see these private secretaries, in operation now, and they have a really, really difficult job. You've got to deal with a family. Okay, a dysfunctional family, let's be honest, over the last 30, 40 years. And you've got to deal with these kind of family relationships. And so I think people will ultimately respect that, he did his job very professionally in very extremely difficult circumstances, like they're all having to go through.
So true. You wrote about William and Catherine's tribute to a pizza seller. They wrote a moving funeral tribute. They met this individual while buying a stack of pizzas for mountain rescue workers. This was a father of two, Peter Morris. He was only 47 years old and passed away from cancer back in May. And this was only weeks after Kate was diagnosed with cancer. Prince William's letter was sent from Kensington Palace, like letterhead, to the widow Tracy, and was actually read at the funeral. He wrote, "We can only begin to imagine what an immense hole he will leave in your life, and my heart goes out to you and your family. Catherine and I thoroughly enjoyed meeting Pete. I did want you to know just how you and your family are in our thoughts at this time." That letter is expected to be framed for Pete's daughters that are 8 and 5. I felt like this was Prince William and Catherine really going out of their way to show kindness. They're going through such a traumatic period in their own lives, so to take a moment to acknowledge someone else in pain, I feel like that says a lot about who they are. You obviously have been around them a lot more often than I have. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and you're 100% right. I mean, the astonishing thing about this story that I probably didn't include in when I wrote it was that William. Yeah, you're right. It was April or May last year, and they didn't meet him for long. They didn't meet Peter Morris for very long. They bought some pizzas off him, had a bit of a chat with him, and didn't really have that long interaction. But William discovered that Peter had died by seeing it on a local news website, and he recognised his name. So it wasn't a case that an aide had said, or I'll tell you what, the right political thing to do is this gentleman, you probably don't remember him, but he's died, and you should send him a letter, send a letter to the widow. William saw the news, recognised the name, says, "Oh, I remember buying pizzas off this guy," and wrote that letter and signed it. And we spoke to Tracy, his widow, and she pointed out that it may well have been the fact that Catherine was going through her cancer struggle that really was the reason why he sent it. But I think he does this quite regularly. I think when you see, he does, when he hears things, he does write letters to people who he has met, and it means such a lot. It means such a lot to these people, particularly to Tracy, so much so that they read it out of the funeral, and that's how I learnt about it, because I learned that this letter had been read out at the funeral, and they're framing it now for their two children. So yeah, it was a lovely thing to do. I think it was circumstance because Catherine was going through cancer, but I get the impression, or I do know, that he does write these letters to people quite a lot, and he does watch local news websites and look at local papers, and looks out for people that he has met on previous engagements. So it's really sweet, and it meant such a lot to Peter's family.
Yeah, that I really appreciate you writing that up. That does give you some insight into what's going on behind the scenes, and it makes you admire the pair even more. I won't keep you for very much longer, but I did want to acknowledge the Princess Royal's birthday. She's turning 74. There were some tributes in the mail today. You always know where you stand with Anne. I completely agree. Princess Anne never made me feel inferior. That's so important. How could Harry and Meghan, or what could Harry and Meghan have learned from the Princess Royals? She seems like such a fierce character.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's fierce, but she's also quite soft at times. I think they could have learnt from her to just get on with the work and keep your mouth shut, because she has given a couple of interviews. I think she gave an interview during for the Platinum Jubilee, and she did speak very nicely actually after her mother died. But they could have learnt valuable. They should have learnt valuable lessons from Princess Anne to just get on with your work and don't talk to everybody. I think Anne is actually, in classic Princess Anne style, she's gone sailing for her birthday. So she's actually sailing off the coast of Scotland. It gets weirder. She's I don't know if you know this, but she is actually obsessed with lighthouses, and she
Oh,
she
wow.
goes to view lighthouses. So she's she's up in Scotland having a very low key 74th birthday. There's no big party, big pictures that you often get with other royals. They might do for a 75th, but she's doing a traditional Princess Anne style of sailing around with her husband, all the Scottish islands, and having a lovely time.
I love her, but I love whale watching, and I love just sea creatures. So I didn't even realize that Anne and I could very much get along, and that I'll jump on any boat with Princess Anne. Oh my goodness. Well, Matt, thank you so much. Stay glued to the Sun for Matt exclusives, and then this incredible royal show that you have that's doing so well on YouTube. How can people find you on YouTube?
Well, yeah, it's on the Sun. It's on the Sun YouTube channel. It's called Royal Exclusive. We do it every week. I've had a little summer break, but we've come back this week, and then we're trying to get experts on, a bit like this show, and just get two people chatting for a long period of time, and try to have some really good professional chat, and have a bit of fun if we can as well. But it's on the Sun's YouTube channel. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is so good. I'm a huge fan of it. I subscribe and watch religiously because I'm a fan of Matt Wilkinson, royal editor at The Sun. Thank you so much for talking to me today, Matt, and I look forward to chatting again with you soon.
Thanks, Kinsey. I'm a fan too, so thank you.